Hi everyone, it's Louise from Made It Number 27, back with you today with another inspiration post for the Feeling Sketchy challenge blog. Today I'm going to be doing some inlay die cut. We'll start with some stamping and then I'll be doing something that you may or may not have seen before with an inlaid die cut. So today I'm going to be using stamps from Avery Elle. We're using this set here, which is called Brushed from Avery Elle. I'm going to use this image and this image here. We'll also be using a sentiment from Avery Elle. This set is called Handwritten Notes. I love this set. I think it's a great font and it's got some clever little add-ins that you can add to your sentiment. But today we'll just be using this Happy Birthday to You sentiment. I'm using inks from Stampin' Up. We'll start with our sentiment and I'm going to be stamping in Smoky Slate. I'm just going to get a baby wipe ready because I'll be using different coloured inks and I want to be sure to clean my stamp in between each, and some scrap paper just to stamp off with. And for this stamping I'll be using three colours from Stampin' Up: Pistachio Pudding, Crisp Cantaloupe and Coastal Cabana. So starting with Crisp Cantaloupe, I'm going to take one of those brushstroke stamp images from Avery Elle. Just stamp that off really well. Next I'll be using Crisp Cantaloupe and a different brush stroke. Oh, whoops, just inked up the wrong one. Duh. The longer one, that's what I want. Again, stamping off in between. Next up with Coastal Cabana, and I'll be using that first brush stroke again, but this time I'm going to stamp it at 180 degrees. Then back to Pistachio Pudding with the longer brush stroke, and again 180 degrees to the previous time I stamped it. So you get the drift. I'm just going to continue stamping like this until okay, so that completes all the stamping. The next thing I'm going to do is take a thin metal die from Simon Says Stamp. It's a feather, and once this ink's dry I'm going to be placing it on there and cutting the feather image out of this area of stamping, and that's what we're left with. Now we want to keep the piece. They can be a bit tricky to get out of the die, but you can use a pin through these holes here. I'm just using my craft knife just to pop that out. Okay, so that's the piece that came out of there. Now you could sit that back in there and get the outline of the feather, but that's a bit dull and boring. So what I've done is I've cut a bunch of feathers from plain white cardstock and I've glued them together to make something that is about the thickness of chipboard, and that was 4 pieces 4 die cuts glued together. So if we inlay that, I don't know how easy it is to see on camera, but we do get some dimension there. So what I'm going to do is glue the piece that we cut from the stamp panel onto the top of that using some glossy accents. So the next step is to adhere this piece onto my base cardstock. I'm using Smoky Slate cardstock from Stampin' Up. It matches the ink that we used for the sentiment. So I'll just adhere that down really well. And I also want to get the area around the feather really well. Okay, now I'm going to slot this piece into there using glossy accents again. And for the stem, I'm going to apply the glue directly onto my die cut. And it should just nestle in there nicely. Perfect. So you can see we've got that dimension there, and the white on the side of the cardstock adds some nice contrast between the stamp panel behind and the stamping on top of the feather. Does that make sense? Okay, to make this feather pop even more, I'm using a Wink of Stella glitter marker in clear, I think they call this one. It just adds subtle shimmer without having to use coarse glitter. I don't know how well you'll see the shimmer on the video, but I'll try and capture it in the photograph, the still photograph. So I'm not sure how much of that shimmer the camera's going to pick up. And then lastly, to add some gloss to the top of the card, I'm going to put a layer of glossy accents over the entire feather. So just dabbing it on and moving it around. And I find when you use glossy accents over the top of the Wink of Stella pen, it actually makes that shimmer stand out more. I think from an optics point of view, and I'm an optometrist, so I should know this, I think the glossy accents causes more light reflection. And then just to even that liquid out a little bit more, I just like to tip it around into the areas that I know were a little bit thinner, so you can pick up that gloss there. Just tidy up the edges there. So that's the card for today. I hope you've been inspired. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.